All right, good afternoon, everybody. It's the Fantasy Sports Boss with the Wednesday stream. The Wednesday stream when I typically take a look at the first injury report of the week as we look ahead to Sunday's games and Thursday's games. This Thursday we have the Steelers against the Browns. Not an overly compelling game, but has fantasy relevancy like any game for that matter. And we'll get into that in a little bit. Also, we have the overreaction, not an overreaction Wednesday. I have my list here. I haven't looked at it yet, so a friend of mine who helps with the channel put 6 or 7 tidbits together, and I'm going to determine if it's a overreaction or not overreaction. I'll get into that a little bit later. But first things before I go any further, if you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button. Also hit that notification button. And I also got a couple of donations the other day. I really appreciate that. It's not expected. It's never expected. But appreciate it if you do it. I have the PayPal link there. But again, never expected, but greatly appreciated to do it. As far as the rest of the week, daily videos like usual. But as far as the live streams, the next live stream will come Friday, Fantasy Football Friday. And then again on Sunday, the wrap-up show at the end of the week. So as far as my teams, and I'm in the 2 leagues that I've spoken about. I'm 2-0 in one league, 1-1 in the other. And the league that I'm 2-0 in, I'm very lucky because I only had a 10-point lead going into Monday night. And my opponent, I had nobody left, and my opponent had Dalvin Cook. So you would think, okay, 10 points, 10 plus points, I'm going to lose, right? Well, Dalvin Cook, I believe, only had 7 and change. So it was a huge upset win for me. So I'm 2-0 in the one league and 1-1 in the other. The other league that I took a loss in, it was just a bad week. I had started Taysom Hill. I started Paris Campbell. Just a colossal error on my part. So, hey, listen, we all make mistakes, myself included. I made some really bad lineup decisions in that one league, and I paid the price for it. So that's how it goes. And hopefully this week I'll get back on the winning track. All right. Also, submit your questions in the chat, your comments, whatever. We'll go over it. That's always part of the live streams. Anytime you have a question, just post it there in the chat, and I will answer it either during the show or later on. In the comments section, and you also could follow me on Twitter at RotoBoss. All right. So wanted to go check out some of the injury news for today. It is only Wednesday. The biggest story, or if you want to call it a non-story, was Lamar Jackson was wearing a sleeve on his arm, did not take part in throwing sessions today. Tyler Huntley, the backup, very, very good backup, one of the best backups in football, in my opinion, handled all the throwing in today's practice session for the Ravens. But, John Harbaugh said, Jackson's going to be fine. No issues going forward. Thank goodness, because I own him in both of my leagues. And Lamar Jackson, you talk about a guy who's playing with determination for that new contract. It's like the football version of Aaron Judge with the Yankees. Judge bet on himself, and look what he's done. He's going to possibly win a triple crown for the Yankees in baseball. Lamar Jackson, other than maybe Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen, of course, has been the best quarterback in fantasy football this season. So, it's definitely it's been a fantastic season for Lamar Jackson, and concerns about him not running, well, those were alleviated when he ran for over 100 yards last week. So I don't think there's any reason to worry about Jackson going forward. All right, L. Dot says, I'm 99% sure that I'm going to cut Darnell Mooney too soon or not. I think it's a little soon. Listen, I did a crisis point video on the Bears the other day. Other than David Montgomery, you're benching every single, or cutting outright, every single Chicago Bears player. You cut Justin Fields, you cut Cole Kmet, Khalil Herbert, if you want to hold on to him as insurance, because I believe in the talent in Khalil Herbert. I'm fine with that. David Montgomery had a good game. I'll give it to him. No issue there with that performance. Darnell Mooney, you can't start even as a flex. I mean, this offense is broken. The passing volume itself is pathetic. It's almost like a high school team, how few opportunities that Fields has been allowed to throw the football. So I think you don't cut him yet. Maybe give it another couple of weeks. We're only 2 weeks in, so I think it's a little rash. And that's something I also talked about with Rashad Penny. I did a Rashad Penny crisis point right before I came on here, and I posted that one. And just like with Mooney, Rashad Penny, too early to cut him loose. He's got the Falcons and the Lions coming up in the next couple of weeks, so I think that you got to stay a little bit more patient. All right, Bob Norris wants to know Garrett Wilson or Deontay Johnson. Oh, Deontay Johnson still. Listen, Garrett Wilson, the Jets have had to throw it exponentially the first 2 games because they've fallen way behind. Listen, I believe in the talent of Garrett Wilson, absolutely. But they have very capable complements such as Elijah Moore, who we were all in love with last year. Corey Davis, who caught a long touchdown pass, and Tyler Conklin. Tyler Conklin's done a good job as tight end. He's catching, he's catching a lot of balls so far, and not to mention Michael Carter out of the backfield. Deontay Johnson is getting the targets. The yardage is not great. He's only capping out at about 60 yards per game. But I think Deontay Johnson is still the play over Garrett Wilson. We don't want to overreact to one game as great as Garrett Wilson played, but I think you stick with Deontay Johnson, for sure. And he's done nothing wrong, Deontay Johnson. I mean, Mitchell Trubisky is struggling. Kenny Pickett chatter is already beginning in Pittsburgh, and I totally understand it. I think Mike Tomlin wants to give a little bit more leash to Trubisky before he pulls the plug, because there's going to be some real struggles ahead with Pickett, although he played well in the preseason. I think a decision could be coming there soon. All right, the Packers, a couple of injury notes today. Christian Watson was limited in practice with a hamstring injury, also had the knee injury during the season. It's going to be it's tough for the Green Bay passing offense in general right now. Now Watson, Romeo Doubs is the rookie that I would own between the two. Unless you're in a very deep league, you're not owning stock in Christian Watson anymore anyway. He was a curiosity when the summer began, but not anymore. All right, Eldell wants to know, is it time to give up on Chase Edmonds? I'm not liking what I'm seeing with Mostert. I have a lot of thoughts on this I'm going to get into later. No, you're not giving up on Chase Edmonds. Absolutely not. I don't like the fact that Mostert got so much work, and Mostert has the relationship with Mike McDaniel going back to their time together in San Francisco. But this is the same Raheem Mostert that couldn't even get through a game without getting injured. There's going to come a point where Chase Edmonds is going to be needed. And I don't think you give up on him yet. I'm not willing to go there yet. All right, Allen Lazard was limited with an ankle. He's going to be fine, no issues. He caught a touchdown. I told you to go out and trade for Allen Lazard prior to the game. The passing volume wasn't exactly great for him. He did catch the touchdown. He's going to be the main touchdown threat in this offense, and I think he's going to catch more passes as we go along. I don't think he's going to be like a target whore, but I think that Lazard is going to be a very good wide receiver 3, maybe hit low-end wide receiver 2 on certain weeks. All right. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, the offense is just broken right now. Mike Evans, obviously the suspension was upheld. He will not play. Chris Godwin didn't practice with the hamstring. Brashad Perriman was limited with the knee. Julio Jones got the day off. Russell Gage did not play well last week in a smash opportunity for him. Listen, I'm benching Tom Brady this week. I'm sorry, you have to do it. I mean, yes, it's Tom Brady, but there's just no way that I'm going to trust anybody right now in this offense, with the problems that they have on the offensive line, with pretty much every single receiver beat up or suspended. The fact they had to go out and sign Cole Beasley speaks volumes. Be very careful with the Tampa Bay offense this week. All right, J.K. Dobbins, full participant. I think Dobbins will be back this week, and they definitely need him. Kenyon Drake was a complete dog last week. I like the fact that they gave him the extra couple of weeks. And the Buccaneers, speaking of the Buccaneers, they should have done this with Chris Godwin. They should have just given him the extra couple of weeks and allowed him to come back for week 3, because I think he would have been back and he would have been fine. No issues with the conservative approach with J.K. Dobbins, who has a huge opportunity. Kenyon Drake did nothing in his place. Mike Davis, same. So this is J.K. Dobbins' offense now from a running perspective, outside of what Lamar Jackson does at quarterback on keepers. So if you have J.K. Dobbins, while I wouldn't automatically throw him out there that first week, I think there's going to be some good performances coming down the chute in the next couple of weeks when it comes to J.K. Dobbins. All right, a Junior just subscribe to the channel. Thank you, Junior. I appreciate that. And the more subscribers I get, the better. Channel's been up for a little bit more than a month. We're almost at 500 subscribers, so I appreciate it. And thank you all, again, whoever donated. I know there was some donations made yesterday. I really appreciate that. Again, never expected, but appreciated. Treylon Burks was limited with the ankle. This is a new injury. So he was, limited situation, so probably hurt it during practice. 7 catches for 102 yards so far through 2 games. You talk about another offense that's broken. The Tennessee Titans offense is broken 100%. And we're not there yet, but this team is ready for a rebuild. You could just tell. I mean, this is a well-coached team. It's been a consistent winner for years, but it's over now. The Ryan Tannehill era is over. We started to see writing on the wall last year, even more so this year. Derrick Henry, whether you want to blame and he's seeing so many stacked boxes now, not totally his fault, but he's 28, a lot of tread on those tires. I told you to stay far away from him. If you didn't listen, I can't help you, but this offense is a joke right now. And I said to keep an eye on Malik Willis. All right. If you're in a super flex league and you have an extra spot on your bench, I would think about picking up Malik Willis. In the preseason, he went crazy running the football, and he even sprinkled in some good throws. He is a project for sure, coming from Liberty. But Malik Willis is that kind of guy. We were all after Trey Lance. Unfortunately, what happened to him, the season-ending injury. Jalen Hurts taking the league by storm now. Malik Willis is the next in line of those super running quarterbacks that can be very fantasy football friendly. So that's, something we have to keep an eye on there. All right. Official McLovin, Jacoby or Duvernay? Jacoby. Speaking of Jacoby, he didn't practice Wednesday with a knee. He got the knee looked at. It doesn't seem like it's a big deal. Listen, Jacoby Myers is very underrated in PPR leagues. He's going to catch, 5 to 7 passes every game, 60-plus yards. He's not going to score, which is annoying. So in standard leagues, you don't use Jacoby Myers. But Duvernay is way too hit or miss. He reminds me of Torrey Smith, very touchdown dependent, very big play dependent. So Jacoby Myers for me. I juked XD. Who should I start at the flex? Antonio Gibson, A.J. Dillon, Brandon Cooks, or Drake London? Wow, this must be a shallow league because that's a lot of guys, good guys that you're deciding between for the flex. I wouldn't start Antonio Gibson, so let's throw him out right away. Brandon Cooks, Davis Mills is battling a thumb injury, so I'm not sure about him. I would say it's either Dillon or Drake London. If it's a PPR league, I'm starting Drake London. If it's a standard league, I'm starting A.J. Dillon. How about that? So that's what I would do there. Again, keep posting your questions, everybody. This is great. Speaking of Davis Mills, full participant in practice. He's battling some sort of a thumb injury. But the fact that he practiced in full really probably means it's a non-issue. And this is good for Brandon Cooks because the one thing about Brandon Cooks, he's had double-digit targets in both games this season. And, those who have been listening to the channel know that I've talked about this before, but Brandon Cooks with Davis Mills is on a 160 catch pace going back to when they first started working together last season. That's Stephon Diggs territory. So the targets are always going to be there for Brandon Cooks, and he works as a supreme wide receiver 3. So, A, hold on to Brandon Cooks. B, Davis Mills is going to be just fine. Van Jefferson, not going to practice this week. It's taken quite a long time for Jefferson to recover from this knee injury. And the real shame of it all is that Allen Robinson hasn't exactly taken advantage of the situation with Jefferson being out. Now, Robinson, as a double Robinson owner myself, I'm wed to this guy, through thick and thin. Had the 15 fantasy points, caught the touchdown, should have had a second, but the spotter called down after the whistle blew. I've never heard of that before. So all the Robinson owners got completely screwed with that one. But, I think that Robinson, it's been disappointing. Even the last game, just the targets are just not there yet. I think Russ is washed. I have him, but I have Hurts, so I'm trying to trade him and Zeke. Yeah, you're not going to be able to trade Zeke, unfortunately, Juked. Russell Wilson, I say he's washed because of the fact I'm not even going to say he's washed. I'm going to say that he's greatly diminished. He's not a runner anymore, and that was a big part of his fantasy appeal for years during his time at Seattle. And without the running aspect of his game, it's just it's not as valuable or as potent as it used to be. Let's see, going just through the rest of the list. All right, George Kittle was limited in practice. I think George Kittle's going to return. And listen, Jimmy Garoppolo's return under center is big news for George Kittle. It's big news for Deebo Samuel. It's big news for Brandon Ayuk, who I posted a video today to buy low on Brandon Ayuk. It's going to be a nice boost to all San Francisco receivers. Jimmy Garoppolo back on center. He's a pure passer. He's not a runner like Trey Lance. So this is good for Kittle, who I think will make it back. The only issue with Kittle, though, that makes it a little bit of a risk is they play on Sunday night. So if there's any last-minute complications, that could hurt. Joe B wants to know, what are your thoughts on Jahan Dotson for the season? Still boomer bust? A little boomer bust. Listen, he's clearly a red zone weapon. They do look to him around the red zone. Think about like Adam Thielen with Minnesota the last couple of years. That's Jahan Dotson this season for the Commanders. And listen, this offense has been much more impressive than I ever thought. I never imagined a Carson Wentz piloted team putting up points and yardage totals the way they are. Now, a lot of that is because they've had to play catch up, but Wentz has made the throws. He's thrown for a lot of touchdowns, and he's had 3 guys now that he's made fantasy relevant in this receiving core: Curtis Samuel, Dotson, and Terry McLaurin. I think he is boom or bust. I do like that his snap count went up this past week. I would put him in there in the flex for this week. I think the Eagles are a tough matchup, so the Commanders are probably going to have to try to throw a lot in the second half when they fall behind inevitably. So Dotson's going to get his opportunities. Terry McLaurin seems to be the one that's left behind a little bit. I would buy low on Terry McLaurin. I think he's just way too talented to continue to struggle, if you want to call it a struggle. I don't think it's really a struggle on him. I just think it's just a lot of mouths to feed right now in this offense. Curtis Samuel doesn't always stay healthy. He's not the most durable player in the world. So if you can get Terry McLaurin cheap, I definitely would do that. All right, Hunter Renfrow did not practice because of a concussion. So this is something that bears watching. Matt Collins is the next guy up, but you're not picking him up anyway. This just would be more catches for Devontae Adams and Darren Waller, who Adams, other than the touchdown early on in the game, was very quiet, uncharacteristically quiet. But this, Raiders are 0-2. Josh McDaniels certainly not making fans already in Las Vegas, coming off of his disastrous tenure coaching the Denver Broncos. So Renfrow, this is something we have to watch. A concussion, that was it probably happened on that last play of the game when he fumbled and the Cardinals miraculously brought it back with a touchdown. So, he's got to go through the protocols. So we'll see what happens there. All right, L. Who would you start between Cordero Patterson, Marquise Brown, and Drake London? 2 of 3. London and Brown, definitely. You can't start Patterson and London. You can't start 2 Atlanta Falcons. No way, no how. So Marquise Brown, a little bit slow out of the gate. I've been a little disappointed in him, but I think he's going to get better as the season goes along. The offense was really humming in the second half last week, speaking of Arizona. So I think that Brown is going to come around for sure. And Drake London's been fantastic. I picked Chris Olave as the guy I thought would be the top rookie wide receiver. I still stand by that, but London is going to have something to say about that as we go through the season. Alvin Kamara returned to practice today with his rib injury. He should be good to go. Keenan Allen was a limited participant today with his hamstring, so he should be set up to go as well. The only thing I'm curious about with Allen's return is what does this do to Mike Williams? Mike Williams wasn't great in week 1. Actually, it was pretty bad with Allen getting a lot of early targets. Williams tends to go a little hot and cold when Allen's in the lineup there, so we'll have to see what happens. Justin Herbert was limited with the ribs. He's got that fracture, the rib cartilage fracture. So this bears watching, but Herbert's one of those guys that you give him the benefit of the doubt with his durability and the fact that he always answers the call. So I think he will be under center. I just want to see now how he plays. Of course, you're starting him, and you're starting Mike Williams. You're starting Keenan Allen. You're even starting Gerald Everett, who's been a nice surprise at tight end. But I want to see if he's inhibited at all with this rib injury, because he certainly looked like he was inhibited during the second half of that game last week. All right, so Tevin Coleman was signed by the 49ers today. Marlon Mack was promoted from the practice squad. So Jeff Wilson's going to get a long leash this week. I don't think that Jordan Mason is really going to eat much into Wilson's workload, if you will. So I think Wilson is a much safer. You hate to see Kyle Juszczyk coming in and taking goal line carries, which was a pain in the ass as somebody who owned Wilson last week. That was annoying. But I think Wilson's going to get a decent run, pardon the pun, this week. So Marlon Mack, leave it alone. There's just no reason for you to even bother with him. KJ Hamler was limited in practice. Hey, Jerry Jeudy did not practice for Denver, so Cortland Sutton is looking at another smash week like he did in week 2, really as the only serviceable option for Russell Wilson. I mean, Albert, for Christ's sake, he had no catches. I don't know what – we missed the boat on Albert O. Thought he was going to be so much better. Maybe the UCLA kid that's going to be coming back from injury in a couple of weeks. Maybe he's the one that takes the mantle as the number 1 tight end. Who knows? All right, Dawson Knox not practicing with a foot injury. He had gotten his foot looked at during the game Monday night. Probably just a maintenance day, considering that they did play on Monday night, so I wouldn't worry about Dawson Knox yet, who remains very touchdown dependent. Gabe Davis did some limited work today for the Bills, so that was good. It was a real shame that he missed Monday's game. Isaiah McKenzie didn't really answer the bell in his place, so if you want to drop Isaiah McKenzie, as much as it pains me to say that, because the Bills had high expectations for him, that was disappointing, but feel free to do so. So Jerry Jeudy with the shoulder, and he's also battling a rib injury. Nathaniel Hackett said after practice that he's not sure he'll be able to practice this week, which makes him very questionable. And again, it's a Sunday night game. So if you have Jerry Jeudy and you don't back him up with somebody who's playing Sunday night or Monday night, you're in trouble. So I don't think he's going to go. If he does get back on the field by Friday, then maybe he has a shot. But it's going to be dicey. All right, Eldell wants to know, what are your thoughts on Sterling Shepard? Is he worth picking up? Sterling Shepard is very boring. I guess you could. If you play in a 5-receiver format or a double flex, Daniel Jones has always favored Sterling Shepard. There was a big deal made in New York today. Kenny Galladay met with the media discussing why he was hardly involved in the offense last week. Well, A, because he sucks and he's overpaid and he doesn't deserve to be on the field. But B, the Giants just don't want him. They don't need him. He's just so overpaid that they can't cut him. And Kadarius Toney, who's hurt again with the hamstring injury, this guy with the soft, I don't know if he doesn't drink any water or what the deal is with Kadarius Toney, but it's pathetic. This coaching staff is done with him as well. So it's Davis Mills. Davis Sills, and then Sterling Shepard as the main two weapons for Daniel Jones. So almost by default, Shepard has some value as a heavily targeted guy. If it's a 5-receiver league, then you could use him. But other than that, I would avoid. All right, Jordan Heckler wants to know, start Tua or Rodgers at QB. Listen, you got to start Tua the way things are going right now. Coming off a 50-point game. And as I said earlier in the show, Aaron Rodgers, this Packers passing offense is terrible. They're going to rely on the run more and more and more as we go along with Aaron Jones and with A.J. Dillon. I want no part of this Packers offense right now. I know he faces a tough defense, but look, has Aaron Rodgers really done anything to make you want to play him this week? Not in my opinion. He's got no chemistry going with these receivers in Green Bay. It's been a mess. Allen Lazard still is not up to par yet, health-wise, completely healthy. So I would go with Tua. All right, who should I start, Mooney or Juju? All right, that's not even a question to me. Juju for sure. And yeah, Jordan, I get it. The Packers are your team. You want to watch your guys that you root for. I totally understand it. But that almost sometimes makes it worse too when they bomb. I still would go Tua. Anyway, getting back to the Mooney or Juju, I'm not putting Darnell Mooney in the lineup. Period. And Juju, I think he's going to be fine. I know the first couple of weeks have been quiet. He had the big first half in week 1. I think Juju is going to be just fine. Pat Mahomes meant what he said about spreading the ball around, clearly. It might be a little bit more rocky than we anticipated with Juju Smith-Schuster, but he's the best receiver on this team, bar none. Mecole Hardman's beat up. It was limited in practice today. I think Juju's going to be fine. All right. Sean Rogan, trade Mark Andrews and Javonte Williams for Joe Mixon and A.J. Brown. Wow, that's a really fair trade. Javonte Williams. Yeah, I would do that trade. Yeah, I definitely. Listen, the Eagles' offense is scary. We should have been more in on Jalen Hurts, myself included. The schedule for the Eagles is the easiest schedule in the entire NFL. If you look at the first 8 to 9 games, they're all cakewalks. And then the numbers are just silly for this offense. So I would make that trade for sure. Joe Mixon, he's boring, but he's productive. And they lean on him very heavily. I like Javonte Williams a lot. I like Mark Andrews a lot. It's a very fair trade, but I like A.J. Brown and Mixon better than Andrews and Javonte Williams. Mooney is playing the Texans, though. You think they'll continue to not? No, listen, they're not going to air it out. No, they're not airing it out in Chicago. It's like a high school team. They're not throwing the ball at all. I've never seen a team throw this few passes in the NFL in forever. You can't start anybody in Chicago. I don't care if Mooney balls out this week. I'm taking my chances against him. You just can't trust anybody in this offense. I mean, Cole Kmet doesn't even have a catch through 2 games. So no way, no how. Yeah, you know what? If Mooney does have a boom game, that's just the way it goes. You have to go with the trends, and the trends say you can't start a Chicago Bear offensive player. There's just no way to do that right now. All right, Zach Wilson, he's in position to come back in week 4. And the only reason why I mention this is because Zach Wilson likes Elijah Moore. He had a good thing going with Elijah Moore last year. So everybody running out that picked up Garrett Wilson, as I would have, we just got to be careful not to overhype Garrett Wilson when Zach Wilson comes back, because Zach Wilson might fall back, and it's annoying having the same last name, Jesus. Zach Wilson might fall back on his old habits with Elijah Moore, who's still a super very talented player in his own right, and who myself and many others were high on as a mid-round pick this year. So that's the only reason why I would mention Zach Wilson in conjunction to Garrett Wilson. Yeah, no problem. I appreciate the kind words. Do you think Pittman will have a big game this week coming off injury? Yeah, I think he'll be fine. He returned to practice today with the quad. He was limited. The fact that he was limited on a Wednesday means he's going to be fine. Listen, there was no doubt about it. The Indianapolis Colts were the biggest disgrace in football last week. I mean, that was fucking pathetic how bad they were. I mean, there's just no other way to describe how pathetic that was against the Jaguars of all teams, too. It just goes to show you how much they missed Pittman and to a lesser extent Alec Pierce, who both will be back this week. I chose Wilson over Christian. You chose Garrett Wilson over Christian Kirk in the draft. Okay, maybe down the road that looks like a better deal, but I don't know. I love Christian Kirk personally, so I'm not the right person to debate you on that one. DeAndre Swift said he was feeling better. I think he'll have more of a regular workload this week. So I think anybody – and listen, DeAndre Swift on a per-touch basis has been absolutely fantastic. He's been balling out. The guy is the real deal. He does get beat up often. So I think that Swift will be just fine. But, again, the injury issue is something that we have to worry about. All right, Dalvin Cook. I wanted to talk about Dalvin Cook because he was very disappointing. Excuse me, I just got to take a sip of water. Dalvin Cook was very disappointing, not only in week one, he was better in week one, but scoring less than 10 fantasy points in week two was not what Dalvin Cook owners envisioned. Kevin O'Connell said today that they need to get the ball in his hands more, especially in the passing game. I mean, thank you, Captain Obvious. But, I think Cook will be okay. You're not going to be able to buy low on him because the name value is way too high. But I think Dalvin Cook is going to be fine. Kirk Cousins is holding back this offense a little bit. I mean, we could have saw this coming, how poorly he played. He doesn't do well on national television. That's been a running joke for a while. Justin Jefferson, it was not a good outing for him as somebody who owns Jefferson. So that whole debate I drafted Jefferson ahead of Cooper Kupp. Should I have done that? A lot of people did it likewise, especially with the Matthew Stafford elbow scare. So far, it's the wrong call. Cooper Kupp should have been drafted ahead of Jefferson, but it's only 2 games in, and we're going to revisit this every week. All right, James Conner returned. He's listed as day-to-day by Kingsbury. He got some reps in practice with the ankle injury. I think he's ultimately going to be okay, so nothing to worry about there. Been hearing Garrett Wilson has the opportunity to be like Amon-Ra, so I paid 25 fab on him. I'm hoping he keeps his dominant role even when Flacco is gone. That's the question. Listen, Joe Flacco can still sling it. If he gets protection like he did last game, he's going to pick you apart. He can't move. He's a statue, but Joe Flacco can still throw it, as he showed in that game. He was fantastic against the Browns. He loves throwing to Garrett Wilson. He's really kind of ignored Elijah Moore, whereas the opposite, where last year, I should say, Zach Wilson heavily targeted Elijah Moore. Now, Zach Wilson could be like, hey, this Garrett Wilson guy, I'm going to target him. Elijah Moore, not so much. Or he could fall back on his habits with Elijah Moore, like I talked about earlier. I don't know. To say that he's going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown, I don't think so. Not this early. The Jets still offensively are they have pieces now, but Zach Wilson is a big question mark. We were talking about Boozy. We were talking about Darnell Mooney, how I said we can't start Darnell Mooney anywhere or any Chicago Bear other than David Montgomery, who's a solid running back too, low-end running back too, works better as a flex. As much as I criticized Montgomery, he was pretty good last week. All right, anybody that's just jumping in, make sure you hit that subscribe and please hit the like button for me. That helps. All right, got the list here. All right. So Wednesday, overreaction or not overreaction Wednesday. I had a friend of mine who helps with the channel put the list together. I haven't seen it until just now, so I'm going to go over these. And again, if you have more questions, post it in the chat. The first one that he wrote here is Jalen Hurts will finish as fantasy football's #1 player overall. Overreaction or not overreaction? All right, I don't think this is an overreaction at all. I actually think Jalen Hurts could finish as the #1 guy, even over Josh Allen. In most leagues, the quarterbacks finish as the top fantasy scorer. So it's 9 times out of 10, or Cooper Kupp last year. That's very rare where that happens. The quarterback usually is the top scoring guy, especially in 6-point touchdown leagues for the quarterback. Jalen Hurts undoubtedly could finish as the #1 player in all of fantasy football, and certainly the #1 player among quarterbacks. Josh Allen will be his biggest competition. Lamar Jackson should be in the running as well. But this Eagles offense is scary. This offensive line is unheralded. Might be behind the Detroit Lions as the best offensive line in football. Hurts was phenomenal throwing the ball last week, and that was really the only question mark we had left with Jalen Hurts is can he develop better as a passer? And if you go back to his college days, Oklahoma, Alabama, he got incrementally better every single year of his college career, and he's gotten better every year of his NFL career as well. And we truly are looking at a sky is the limit moment for Jalen Hurts this season. So he absolutely, not an exaggeration, he could finish number one. Ollie's Oreo, someone wants my Justin Tucker for either Hardman or Boyd. Do I do it? 12-man half PPR league. Yeah, I would do that. Mecole Hardman is, he's a bit player on the Chiefs. Mecole Hardman he'll have one good game a month and then he'll vanish for 3 weeks. So I don't think he's anything to hold on to for sure. And, Tyler Boyd is really just an insurance policy in case T. Higgins or Jamar Chase gets injured. He's been very good in PPR leagues when he's been a number 2 receiver, but right now he doesn't have much value at all. And you're talking about the number 1 kicker. I don't talk about kickers much on here. One of my fantasy leagues are the 2 leagues I play in. We have no kicker, no defense. And I suggest you try it because kickers, there's no rhyme or reason for a kicker. When the offense fails and bogs down and a kicker comes out, it's almost impossible to forecast who's going to be the number 1 scoring kicker because if you have Harrison Butker, for instance, the Chiefs score so many touchdowns rather, he's only going to get extra points and not get a lot of field goal opportunities. Then you have somebody like Graham Gano on the Giants, who the Giants don't score a lot of touchdowns. He kicks a lot of field goals. So it's hard to correlate. That's why in this one league I'm in, we don't have a kicker and we don't have a defense. And I think it's great. All right, the next one. Carson Wentz will be a top 10 fantasy football quarterback this season. That's an overreaction. I mean, listen, it's still Carson Wentz. I know he's been big. He's been balling out the first couple of weeks for sure. A lot of that is an indictment on the Commanders falling behind early, having to throw to catch up. And you're welcome, Oreo. No problem. Keep submitting questions if you have any. But Carson Wentz, he seems to be a good fit in this offense. There's no doubt about it. And he's made 3 receivers on the Commanders fantasy relevant through the first 2 weeks of the season. But do I think he can finish as a top 10? I think that's an overreaction. All right, Max wants to know A.J. Dillon for Brandon Cooks trade. Who wins? Is it PPR or standard? I'd have to know what that is to adequately answer that. If it's a PPR league, I would have to say Cooks would win. If it's standard, PPR. All right. Yeah, you know what? Aaron Jones was phenomenal in week 2. I think that the Packers saw this. That kind of unlocked things a little bit for them. So I think Aaron Jones might get more work than A.J. Dillon going forward. So I think Brandon Cooks would be the slight gain. If I owned Cooks, would I trade him straight up for A.J. Dillon? I don't think I would. All right. Wentz or Goff this week? Jared Goff. I'd have to go Jared Goff. The Wentz is playing the Eagles. The Eagles are playing well. Look what they did. They completely shut down the Kevin O'Connell Vikings offense last week. That defense is playing well. And Carson Wentz going against the Eagles, his former team. We saw Jameis Winston get very jittery and chucking the ball all over the place against his former team through 3 interceptions last week. I don't like Wentz going against the Eagles this week. I'm going with Goff. Should I pick up Garrett Wilson for to replace Wilson for Devontae Smith? No, I wouldn't do that. I know Devontae Smith was really good last week, but A.J. Brown's still the number 1 target. You have Dallas Goedert, who's going to be a decent weapon for them as well. So I wouldn't do that. I really want to see where this goes with Garrett Wilson, who could be the number 1 receiver in this offense. I don't think Devontae Smith could be the number 1 receiver on the Eagles. All right, Pittman coming back for week 3. Boozy wants to know. Yes, he is going to come back for week 3, and I think he's going to be just fine. I think it was more precautionary than anything that he set out last week. All right, Jordan Heckler, Tua top 10. Can Tua Tagovailoa finishes the top 10? I mean, listen, he scored 50 fantasy points last week. Can he finish top 10? I mean, I think he could because, I mean, when you have Jalen Waddle and Tua Tagovailoa, and Tyreek Hill as your 2 wideouts, and that was just ridiculous what they did last week against a solid Baltimore Ravens defense, no less. I think he could finish top 10. Mike McDaniel, who I think is going to be coach of the year, he knows what he's doing offensively. He structured this offense perfectly for the strength of Tua, which is a short intermediate game. He's very accurate. And he's got two receivers that can create after the catch. and also get down the field for big smash plays. And we saw that last week. I think Tua could be a top 10. All right, Curtis Samuel will finish top 15 wide receiver. Overreaction or non-overreaction? Top 15. Boy, everybody's jumping in on this Commanders offense. You know what? I don't think that's an overreaction. And I'll say this. If he can stay healthy, that's the big caveat. Curtis Samuel has not been able to prove that he could stay healthy before. So if he can do that, I think he can finish top 15 based on the fact not only is he a supreme cast receiver, but he's being used not heavily, but he's being used enough in the running game that it's making him stand out. It's putting him in Deebo Samuel territory, and Deebo Samuel is a top 10 receiver. So top 15, that's not as big of a jump as you might imagine for Curtis Samuel if he's going to be used like Deebo Samuel. Rondale Moore, good pickup. Yeah, I think it's a good pickup. What I will say about Rondale Moore is, the Greg Dortch, who's put himself on a fantasy map the last couple of weeks filling in, that will be Rondale Moore's job when he comes back. So we saw – Dorsich I don't even remember how to pronounce his name. We saw him put up useful fantasy points the last couple of weeks filling in for Rondale Moore. So when Rondale Moore comes back, he's going to inherit that position. So that goes to show you, and Rondale Moore is a better athlete, that there's fantasy points there for the taking for Rondale Moore if he can get back onto the field. All right, Uber Robert, what's up? How you doing, man? Rodgers, top 25, Jordan Heckler. Jeez, Aaron Rodgers, man. You got to feel for Aaron Rodgers a little bit. I mean, it's been a tough slug for him. But you know what? When you lose Davante Adams, it's almost like we could have saw this coming. You have two rookie receivers. Aaron Rodgers is not the most patient man in the world. Not totally surprised by this. All right, next. No Green Bay receiver will catch 70 passes. Overreaction or not an overreaction? So no Green Bay receiver will catch 70 passes. That's not an overreaction. I don't think any Green Bay receiver is going to catch 70 passes. I think Allen Lazard could top out. Allen Lazard would have the best chance to do it. Certainly, if it was a 16-game season, I would say this is not going to happen for sure. The extra game, maybe it's possible. It's going to be close. Can Allen Lazard catch 70 passes? I think he could, but I don't think it's guaranteed either because he's not the most durable guy in the world. Yeah, I don't know, Jordan, what the Packers are doing in the front office. Clearly, Davante Adams didn't want to stay, so they did the best they could, I guess, with the trade. Drafting Christian Watson where they did, there were better guys that they could have had. Jahan Dotson. I mean, they could have had him. How would Dotson look with the Green Bay Packers this year? I mean, I believe Olave too, right? I think Olave was drafted. I might be wrong about that. I don't know that offhand. But yeah, I mean, they could have been better decisions to make. Allen Lazard, solid against Tampa Bay. Yeah, I would put Allen Lazard in as a wide receiver 3. More ideally as a flex. I would put Lazard in there. I think he's going to have another week of practice with Rodgers that they'll get more on the same page. If I have 4 wide receivers better than Brandon Cooks, is it okay to trade him for A.J. Dillon? I have Rashad Penny as my running back 2, sadly. All right, listen, then I would do the trade. If Rashad Penny's your running back 2, I would do that trade. And I like A.J. Dillon, don't get me wrong. I think he's a very good running back too. So I would do that trade. If Cooks is your 5th receiver, then yes, do that trade. All right, T. Higgins will have more per game points than Jamar Chase when they're on the field together this season. Wow. What I will say about this is that the last month of the season, when T. Higgins was on the field with Jamar Chase, he had more points per game than Chase did. Last week, T. Higgins went out with a concussion in week 1, so you throw that game out. Last week, Higgins was healthy, and so was Chase, and Higgins had more points than Jamar Chase. He caught a touchdown. He was the more valuable fantasy receiver last week. So since these two guys have been on the field together going back to last December and week 2 this year, T. Higgins has had more points per game than Jamar Chase. So that is not an overreaction. I know it sounds crazy to say that because of how awesome Jamar Chase was last year, but T. Higgins is pretty freaking good himself. All right, let's not forget, he was a high draft pick himself, big-time athlete. That is not an overreaction. All right, I'm going to get pushback on that for sure, and I get it, but the evidence is there. Higgins was better than Chase last December. He was better than him in week 2. So Noah Fant, not a fan of Noah Fant. I wouldn't pick him up if that's what you're asking. All right, last one. Chase Edmonds is a running back 3 from here on out. Oh, my God. Chase Edmonds. Shit. Listen, that really pissed me off last week. I can't even believe that. But then again, I can believe it because Mike McDaniel has a history of Raheem Mostert going back to San Francisco. And Raheem Mostert, when he's on the field, he's good too. He's very good. He can run. He's got great speed. And Mike McDaniel wants speed all over this offense. And that's what's made it so deadly is because Tyreek Hill is a sprinter. Jalen Waddle's a sprinter. Raheem Mostert is a sprinter. And Chase Edmonds has good speed too. But McDaniel has history with Mostert. And as much as I like Chase Edmonds coming into the season, he wasn't very good last week running the football. I think he had 10 carries for 26 yards. It wasn't good. Maybe that was all McDaniel needed to see to make the switch. They had a 50% snap share each between the two of them last week, but Mostert got most of the carries. Edmonds looked good on that one late chance that he got. Maybe that puts the thought in McDaniel's head to give him more work this week. I don't know. It's not an overreaction to say now that Chase Edmonds is a running back 3, as much as it pains me to do that. I've been trying to trade him this week to no avail. I'm trying to cut loose, cut bait on him. Not liking what I'm seeing there. All right, Angela Aguiar, can you touch your nose with your tongue? Okay, I don't know why you're – okay, I guess somebody's just, I don't know what that was for, but okay. Jared Chiara. Who should I play at my flex in a full PPR 10-team league? I got A.J. Dillon versus Tampa, Garrett Wilson versus Cincy, or Cortland Sutton versus San Fran. You're welcome. Flex play. I'm going to go with Sutton. Jerry Jeudy, I don't think he's going to play. I know that San Francisco defense is tough, but A.J. Dillon against Tampa, that Tampa defensive line is very, very tough. Garrett Wilson, I want to see him do it again. I would go with Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton was fantastic last week with Jerry Jeudy out. So I'm fine. I would go with Sutton there. All right, start Brady or bench. I would bench Tom Brady this week. Tampa Bay has no receivers right now. Evans is suspended. Chris Godwin's still out. He's going to be out again this week. Julio Jones didn't practice. They call it a maintenance day, but we got to see what his deal is. I mean, they signed Cole freaking Beasley. So that tells you all you need to know there. All right, Sam Allen, I was offered Hill for St. Brown. Thoughts? I mean, that's almost a wash. Geez, if I had to pick one, if my house depended on it, I got to go with Tyreek Hill. You're going to get more bigger plays from Tyreek Hill than you're going to get from Amon-Ra St. Brown, and the track record is much more potent when it comes to Hill, but it's close. It's very close. Clearly, it looks like Amon-Ra St. Brown is this year's Cooper Kupp 2021. We're all wondering who's going to be the guy this year, who's going to be Cooper Kupp 2021. Justin Jefferson was a popular answer. Jamar Chase. Less obvious was Amon-Ra St. Brown. Looks like he might be the guy for sure. I would say take Hill also. I agree with Jared. Would you go after Rachaad White? I've been hearing about Leonard Fournette's hamstring issue. Listen, he had 20-something carries last week, Leonard Fournette. I don't think there really is a hamstring issue. I have Rachaad White in both of my leagues because I own Leonard Fournette in both of my leagues. So I have Rachaad White as my handcuff. And by the way, let's talk about the handcuff strategy, okay? Sorry. I have like this tickle in my throat. The running back handcuff strategy so far this season has been very, very fruitful. I told you to pick up Jeff Wilson for the 1 o'clock games, week 1. I told you to pick up Khalil Herbert. And obviously, Elijah Mitchell got hurt. Wilson's now the guy. Khalil Herbert, I think, is still worth holding on to because David Montgomery has had health issues in his past, and he's the much more electric runner. So he's worth at least holding on for another couple of weeks. This past week, I said pick up Eno Benjamin, because I don't trust James Conner. Well, Conner got hurt. It looks like Conner's going to play this week, but if you have Eno Benjamin, PPR leagues, I thought that he'd be a very good replacement. Him and Darrell Williams might split things up there. All right, and then this week, I definitely think Rachaad White you should pick up. If you own Leonard Fournette, you should be owning Rachaad White as it is. All right, Darren Waller for Drake London. Mark Andrews is my starting tight end. If Mark Andrews is your starting tight end, then absolutely you do that deal. Darren Waller for Drake London. I really like Drake London. I think he's going to be fantastic. I really do. I don't know what USC is doing with their receivers, whoever their receiver coach is, but Amon-Ra St. Brown is balling out. Drake London is going to ball out. So they're right up there now with LSU, who produced Jarvis Landry, who produced Odell Beckham Jr., who produced Justin Jefferson. I think that the LSU wide receiver factory is just as USC is just as potent as LSU is right now. I apologize for the barking dogs upstairs, guys. I'm doing this in my basement. Someone dropped Mike Evans. I snagged him up. Who would drop Mike Evans? I mean, shit. Who would you ever drop Mike Evans? I mean, I don't understand that one, but okay. Good for you. Good for you, Juked. Had to drop Schultz, which sucks, but I still think it's good. I mean, this must be a really shallow league. I do like Dalton Schultz. I think he's going to be fine. He's only going to miss a week or so. But, I mean, if you could pick up Mike Evans, then great. All right, for my flex this week, Curtis Samuel versus Philadelphia, Devontae Smith. Mooney, definitely not. Lazard, Rondale Moore, Julio, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Pittman are my starters. Wow, those are good starters. So you have Pittman and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Great job there. I would go Curtis Samuel. I think you play Curtis Samuel until the wheels come off, whether he gets hurt or whether his team start figuring out how to defend him, because he's catching the ball, he's running the ball. He's been really good. All right, Monique, how do you feel about Sammy Watkins and Devin Duvernay as a pickup? I don't like either one. I was thinking about dropping Boyd, or should I keep him in case? I would keep Boyd because Tyler Boyd could be a wide receiver, low-end wide receiver too overnight if something happens to Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. All right, so we went over the list for the Overreaction Wednesday. So, yeah, there were some good ones there. We went over the injury report. So I'm going to have to cut this short. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, if you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button. I appreciate all the support. Please hit the like button because that definitely helps with the indexing. More videos coming tomorrow. I got some more crisis points. If there's anybody you want me to talk about, make sure, and you're welcome, Monique, make sure you post in the comment section anybody maybe you want me to profile. And anytime you have a question, ask in the comment section. I will answer it almost within a few minutes, most of the time, within the hour, almost 90% of the time. And that's why I'm trying to use this channel to be different from everybody else. I'm always going to get back to you right away. I know it's very frustrating when you ask these experts on Twitter questions and they never get back to you. I'm always going to get back to you right away. That day, 99% of the time. And then also on Sunday, instant injury videos. A minute after a guy goes down hurt, I'm going to post the injury video and discuss it. And then the live streams during the week to take away questions. So thanks for tuning in, guys. We will talk soon. Have a great night.